Hey, what is going on, guys? It's been about 50 days since the EZFN Season 4 beta first came out. So in today's video, I want to do sort of a 50-day update, talk about where we're at in terms of the beta and what we can expect moving forward. We'll first talk about what's going on with release, when do we think it's going to come out. I'll then move into the queue times, player counts, and how there's kind of been some issues going on with that. We'll then talk about the really good updates, especially regarding the synchronization between Season 4 and 7. We'll then talk about features I really think are needed, like Siphon and controller custom lines. And then finally, I kind of have a little discussion on possible balance adjustments they can still make to the loot pool to reduce on clutter and make more weapons viable. So, let's start out with the release date. About 2 weeks ago, I made a video saying Season 4 was launching soon and what you needed to know, because they said that it was going to launch in 2 to 3 days. However, there were some issues with synchronization, I think, between Season 4 and 7, as well as mobile, so that never actually happened. As of now, unfortunately, we still don't have a confirmed release date. It's unfortunate, but if they're still dealing with issues, it's understandable, and there has been genuine progress since that last announcement, so it's not like they haven't been doing anything, but a little unfortunate it's not fully released yet, as it's only on EU servers, for instance. We don't have all the modes and all that. Now, the next thing is talking about queue times and player counts. Now, this is going to vary depending on what time you like to play EZFN, but from what I've noticed is getting the balance right between queue times and player counts has seemed to be very difficult lately. Sometimes they only run one server at a time, so you get like 60 players per game, but it takes 20 minutes to queue into the match. Other times the queue is too fast, and it's situations where you have 10 players per game, but your queue is faster. Overall, what I think is that really what they should consider doing is running one mode at a time. Maybe like once a week, switch the mode between solo, duo, and Infinity Gauntlet. Because they're trying to run two modes right now, and it just seems like it's very difficult to get the timing right between queue times and player counts. It would be something worth trying, possibly, to just run one mode at a time, force everybody to play the same mode, and then maybe have a game every 5 minutes or so. It's very hard to time that correctly, but something worth considering. We know they have the power to adjust the amount of game modes. It may be more difficult to adjust the server timing, but we know they can cut or add game modes at will. So, would be something interesting to see happen. The next thing is really good updates have been going on, especially regarding sync between Season 4 and 7. So, before, early on in the beta, when you swapped over, all your stuff would get reset, everything was messed up, your sensitivity would be completely ruined. Nowadays, though, it's not perfect, but genuinely, it seems to work pretty well. When I switched between Season 4 and 7, only a few binds are messed up, the sensitivity and settings are mostly correct. From the people I've spoken to, it seems like it's also working pretty well for them. Overall, really happy with what they've managed to get going with sync. It works really well. It's pretty much there now. It takes like 30 seconds to fix whatever sync didn't do. It's much faster than spending 5 minutes rebinding your entire setup. So overall, really good to see there. Let's move on to some needed features I still think needs to be in the game. The first one is Siphon. Whenever I do a poll, the vast majority of you would like to have Siphon. I really do think it would make the game much better. I think it's less of an issue in Season 4 because the game pacing is so slow. Not in necessarily a bad way, but it's a slow-paced game with low mobility. It's less of an issue because it takes a long time to find the next person anyway, so if you have to loot a little bit more, far more mats, it's fine. And also because building's slower, you don't need as many mats. But I still think Siphon would overall help out in reducing the amount of time you have to spend looting and farming mats. And the next thing is controller custom binds. I have spoken to EZFN developers about this. It sounds like it is possible to get it into the game. It sounded like it was going to happen a long time ago, but it didn't. Hopefully we can get that into the game before the release, or at least shortly after the release. Honestly, I've gotten used to the normal binds, but it still would just be better to have custom binds. It's not going to give you full functionality, but it should fix some issues and overall just make editing better, as you don't have to hold and that kind of stuff. And then the final topic I want to talk about is some possible balance adjustments. Now, overall, I think Season 4 balance is actually pretty good. All three shotguns are competitive. None of them outshine the other ones massively. They all have a unique advantage and disadvantage. The SMGs, I think, are pretty good. Tactical SMG is really solid. Silence is all right. LMG is all right. AR meta, I think, is decent. The SCAR is probably outright the best, but the Scoped AR and the Burst are all right against lower tier ARs. But there's still a few Garbo weapons lying around, and the ones that really come to mind to me are the Revolver and the Hand Cannon, right? I think it's very possible to correct the balance by just buffing these weapons. because really no one wants to use the revolver. It's terrible. It does 20 damage, right? What I think they should consider doing is buffing both of these guns to be how they were in Season 9. So increase the fire rate from, I believe it's 0.9 on the revolver, that would go up to 1.5, and buff the damage fall off. I think that would really help out and make them more usable. They're not going to be busted overnight. Yes, it's non-historical, but I really do think, with weapons that are this bad, you should either buff them to be competitive or just get rid of them, because they're just clogging up the loot pool. Now, if you disagree and you think it should be fully historical, that's a valid opinion. You can't say you're necessarily wrong, but I do think it would be nice to have less clutter in the loot pool. Hand cannon's less bad. The hand cannon's a bit better, but it's kind of a similar situation where the hand cannon's not particularly good. Honestly, I'm hearing a lot of you using it, and if it's fun for you, that's totally awesome. Keep using it, but if you want to be competitive, the hand cannon is not particularly good. Do remember, it only does 30 damage at range and only 80 wall damage. So, just something to keep in mind. But overall, I'd say the Season 4 loot pool is pretty good. The pistol could also maybe be buffed, but I find the pistol to be less of an issue. I feel like the pistol is better than the revolver. So overall, I think it's a pretty good meta. So, hopefully this video is interesting. I'm hoping Season 4, we can get through these final issues and get it launching soon, and we'll play it with the full release, but we'll have to wait and see. And with that, I will catch you in the next one.